Hi friends, Krista here. Thanks for stopping by Books and Jams. I am so excited today to talk about books that are coming out in the next 3 months that I'm very excited for. I have so much fun scouring different blogs and NetGalley and other places online, Googling just books that are coming out and making my own list of ones that I'm the most excited for. And so I have a list, I think, of 13. I have 5 July. I chose 2 from August and then 6 from September. So that's 13. Yeah. And what I do when I make these lists is I immediately go see if they're available on NetGalley and request them. Some of them I've already been approved for. And then I also go right ahead to my library and put them on hold. Some of them are just listed as on order. So they're like all in caps instead of regular punctuation. And that gets me on the holds list and possibly can get it pretty early on when it gets released. I don't always get to reading it right away, but I do put them on hold right away at the library just to kind of keep them fresh in my mind whenever they do come in. So I have 13 books to talk about today that I'm really excited for that are coming out in the third quarter. I would love to hear in the comments if any of these strike your fancy, if you're adding any to your TBR, if you have any other books that I don't mention that are coming out at the end of the year. I would love to hear that as well. This is not a comprehensive list. This is just 13 that stood out to me as I was going through all the places. Forgive me if I keep looking to the side because I do have all the information on a spreadsheet that I'll be referring to as I go through this video, but let's jump right in. The first one coming out on July 4th is by Elle Everhart and it's Wanderlust. This just seems like such a fun summertime read. It is a romance and we follow a magazine writer called Dylan and she, on a whim, I guess, calls in to a radio giveaway opportunity and she wins a trip around the world. The catch is she has to randomly somehow pick somebody from her contact list to go with her. So she wins 2 tickets, but the second person has to be a random person from her contacts. And so I don't know how they do it, but she ends up picking this guy named George, who she ghosted a few years ago. Maybe they went out on one date. They're basically strangers. She didn't think things would work out, so she ghosted him. And then he's the one that has to go on a trip with her around the world. She is a magazine writer, so she's thinking about ways that she can kind of make this whole trip into an article, obviously. And she, I think, decides she's going to kind of embellish the relationship that she and George have. But I'm sure because it's a romance that by the end, there is an actual relationship there to talk about. So it just sounds like a lot of fun. I have no idea, like steam factor or anything like that. Just the whole premise of it sounds like a lot of fun to me. I'm not familiar with Elle Everhart. I'm not sure if this is a debut or not, but I'm interested in the idea of travel and then this kind of forced proximity, basically strangers, possibly slight second chance, even though there was not really a first chance. Yeah, we'll see. But it just sounded like fun to me. The second one that also comes out on July 4th is The Housekeepers by Alex Hay. This is kind of a historical mystery and it sounds like so much fun. Our main character in this one is Mrs. King. She was born into this con artist, deceptive family who like to manipulate and steal basically from other people. She is able to separate herself from that and becomes the housekeeper of this very prominent home in Mayfair. But at some point, she is let go from her job rather unexpectedly, and she's not very happy about it. So she gathers a group of other women who work below stairs, so downstairs, like maids and housekeepers and whatnot, and they decide they are going to steal from this family that she used to work for on the night of this huge gala that they host every year. I think that sounds like so much fun. Kind of a twist on the upstairs downstairs situation. I just think it's going to be a lot of fun. We shall see. Catherine Center is one of my favorite kind of romance women's fiction authors, and she has a new book coming out on July 11th called Hello Stranger. I'm very excited for this. I love Catherine Center very much. I feel like she does such a good job of bringing some depth to some romances, but also has some funny, humorous, realistic moments. I just really like her writing, and typically they're not very steamy. There might be one scene in it, but typically they're not focused on the sexual relationship. In Hello Stranger, we follow Sadie, who is a portrait artist, and she's very good at her job. One day, I don't know if there was an accident or something, but Sadie wakes up in the hospital and realizes that she has face blindness. I wasn't sure exactly what that means. I don't think it means that like she can't remember people, but I think that there's like a relative blurriness when she's looking at people. And if you are a portrait artist, that puts a real wrench in your life, in your work. And I also think that there are two men. I don't know if they enter her life at this point or if she already knows them. Slight love triangle possibility, but she just has to reevaluate everything in her life because of this new condition that may be temporary, may be permanent. We don't know. So I'm excited about that. I love Catherine Center and I will read anything that she writes. The next July 11th book coming out is called Thief, Liar, Lady. This is by D.L. Soria, and this one is a fairy tale retelling. I think it's listed as sci-fi fantasy. This is going to be a twist on a Cinderella tale, where Cinderella is not this kind of helpless young girl whose stepmother takes advantage of her. She is trained by her stepmother to use magic as power, and so are the stepsisters. And their plan is on the night of the ball to entrap the prince, in a sense, to set themselves up for a comfortable future. So Cinderella's goal is to go to the ball, meet the prince, have him fall in love with her, and things don't go quite as planned. Apparently another prince shows up who Cinderella actually has feelings for and kind of throws a wrench in their plans. So I just think it sounds like a fun twist on a Cinderella tale. And I'm sure like kind of female empowerment, magic. I don't know. It just sounds fun to me. And the final July book just is like the epitome of summertime to me. I am so excited. It's called The Summer of Songbirds by Christy Woodson Harvey. It's a women's fiction and it takes place at a camp. If you have been here for a while, you know that I love camp. I will probably be going up in July to my mom's camp for a little bit, staying at her cottage for a little bit in New York. And I just love camp. I grew up going to camp. I grew up working at a camp. When I was old enough, I just love summer camp. So in this book, The Summer of Songbirds, we have 4 women who all met at camp when they were young. One of them ends up buying the camp that they went to, and now they all kind of come back together because the camp is really struggling financially and in every way. And the girls kind of come back together to see if they could fix things and save the camp ultimately. Each of them, I'm sure, has their own drama that they're bringing to the table, and their friendship, is their friendship going to be tested? I don't know. But I love the idea of it being set on a camp. The cover is like the epitome of summertime. I think this is going to be a perfect summery read. Moving on to August, we have a book by an author that was on my anticipated reads list in 2021, and I still haven't read The Spanish Taught Her, but Lorena Hughes this year is coming out with a book called The Queen of the Valley. This is a historical fiction, and I'm excited about this because it takes place in Colombia in South America, and I just don't read a lot that takes place in that part of the world. So this book is mainly set in Colombia. It's in the wake of the 1925 California earthquake. We follow a photographer, a young Spanish chocolatier who's in disguise, and a Palestinian Colombian nun. And these 3 characters go on a search for the missing owner of a coveted hacienda amidst the emerging cholera epidemic. So we've got an earthquake that happened in California in the 1920s. We have all of these 3 coming together, the photographer, the nun, and the chocolatier from different backgrounds, all of them coming together on this mystery, this search for the owner of this hacienda. And then we have the cholera situation going on as well. I think that sounds so good and very interesting, and about a time in history that I simply don't know very much about. So I'm very interested in reading The Queen of the Valley. Sounds so good. I'm wondering if it's a sequel to The Spanish Taught Her, because The Spanish Taught Her also involves chocolate in Ecuador and Spain. So I'm not sure if they're at all connected. I should do a little bit more research before I just dive into that one, because if I need to read Spanish Taught Her first, I want to do that. Next up, I have my first middle grade on this list, and it's called The Lost Library. This is by Rebecca Stead and Wendy Mass, and it's a sci-fi fantasy coming out on August 29th. It's about a magical little free library. I mean, I don't know that I need to know much more than that. There's a cat that guards the library. A couple of kids come by and take a book or 2 from the library. One of those books, I think, is a portal into another world. or something along those lines. All I needed to know was a magical little free library. And I'm like, that's intriguing and I love it. So The Lost Library is definitely on my list of anticipated reads. All right, moving into September books. The first one we have is another middle grade by Kate Elbis, who wrote A Place to Hang the Moon, which is a World War II story that I absolutely loved. She has another one coming out that is set during World War II, but it's in America. This one is called Nothing Else But Miracles, and it comes out on September 5th. In this one, we follow Dory and her brothers. They live on the Lower West Side, I think, of New York City. And they are anxiously and eagerly awaiting their father's return from the war. I don't know what happened to their mom, but it's the older sister and her little brothers. And they're on their own in their apartment in New York City. They're not completely alone because the neighborhood kind of comes around them and helps out. Their landlord, who's been letting them stay there on their own, knowing they have this community, dies unexpectedly, and the new landlord is horrible. And he finds out that they're on their own and wants to get them sent to an orphanage. Well, in their building, there's this elevator that's like a hand-operated elevator. Sounds kind of creepy and slightly broken. That's the only way to get up to the upper floor of their apartment building or their housing. And so Dory decides that they're going to go kind of hide out up there using this elevator. And apparently this building that they live in, that's a part of the story, is an actual building in New York City. So that's kind of a fun twist on things. I love middle grade books that focus on a sibling group. I love World War II. I love different takes on a World War II story. And I don't think this is going to be directly about the war. It's more going to be about this brothers and sister and how they survive kind of on their own, sort of. Yeah, sounds really good. Nothing Else But Miracles. Also on September 5th, William Kent Kruger has a new book coming out that I'm very excited for. I loved Ordinary Grace and This Tender Land by him. And this one is called The River We Remember. It's also going to be set in the Midwest, as all of his books have been so far. And it's going to take place in the 1950s, which is pretty similar time period, I think, to the other ones. In a small Minnesota town, during a Memorial Day kind of celebration, a body is discovered in the river of the son of a prominent townsperson. Immediately before the autopsy is even completed, some shade is thrown towards this Native American veteran who lives in town. This guy, Noah, had married a Japanese woman during World War II and is apparently not liked by some people, but immediately people are suspicious specifically of him, saying that he is the one that killed this other guy. So the town kind of gets split down the middle, and things start to get potentially violent as they wait for the law to decide like what really happened to this guy who died, and was Noah really responsible? So it's going to deal with a lot of heavy stuff, but I really love William Kent Kruger's writing and I trust him, and I definitely want to read this next book by him. The last four that I have all come out on September 26th, and I had to narrow it down. Friends, when I was making this list, I think I at first had over 15 books. I'm like, I can't, because I keep track of the ones that I actually read, and that just was going to be too many. So I did narrow it down. I have 4 left that all come out on September 26th. The first one is The Pomegranate Gate. This cover is stunning. I love it. It's by Ariel Kaplan, and I have already been approved for it on NetGalley. Woohoo! And it's going to be a kind of a historical fantasy. I actually wrote down the description that was on NetGalley because it just sounded so good to me. So let me just read it to you. The first adventure in the Mirror Realm cycle, a Spanish Inquisition era fantasy trilogy inspired by Jewish folklore. So right there, that like one sentence tagline, I was intrigued. Jewish folklore, Spanish Inquisition era. Like, I just am intrigued. So we follow a couple people. Toba Perez can speak, but not shout, sleep, but not dream. She can write with both hands at once in different languages, but she sees her talents hidden at her grandparents' behests. She keeps her talents hidden at her grandparents' behest. Naphtali sees things that aren't real and dreams things that are. Always the family disappointment, he would still risk his life to honor his father's last wishes. After the queen demands that every Jew convert or face banishment, Toba and Naphtali are among thousands of Jews who flee their homes. Defying royal orders to abandon all possessions, Toba keeps an amulet she must never take off, and Naphtali smuggles a centuries-old book he's forbidden to read. But the Inquisition is hunting these particular treasures, and they're not hunting alone. Dun, 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 dun. But then Toba stumbles through a pomegranate grove into the mirror realm of the Mazik, mythical, terrible immortals with an inquisition of their own, equally cruel and even more powerful. With the Mazik kingdoms in political turmoil, this inquisition readies its bid to control both realms. In each world, Toba and Naphtali must evade both inquisitions long enough to unravel the connection between their family heirlooms and the realm of the Mazik. Their fates are tied to this strange place, and it's up to them to save it. Dun, dun, dun. Oh my word, it sounds so intriguing, adventurous, fast-paced. We've got the magic, we've got this whole Jewish folklore type of thing going on, and I just think that sounds so good. So good. Holy moly. The Pomegranate Gate. Okay, totally switching gears for the next one. It's called The Wakeup Call by Beth O'Leary. Here we have a romance, and this also comes out, like I said, on September 26th. In this one, we follow two people, Izzy and Lucas, and they are both receptionists at the same hotel, and they're also arch rivals. They really don't like each other. However, their hotel is kind of falling apart. It's their busiest season of the year, Christmas time. One of them finds a box of wedding rings, I think, of lost, oh, like in the lost and found, they find some wedding rings. I don't know. At some point, they return a wedding ring to a guest who had lost it and receive a kind of a reward for it. And they decide to kind of work together to help more lost items, in particular wedding rings, get back to their original owners in hopes that somehow this will save their hotel. So it just sounds kind of fun, quirky, romancy. I have had mixed feelings about Beth O'Leary. I did not read The No-Show, which was last year's book. I did not love The Road Trip, but I really did like The Flat Share and The Switch by her. So she is also kind of romance / women's fiction. I don't find them to be quite as like humorous and lighthearted as some other rom-com authors. So I like Beth O'Leary. I have liked Beth O'Leary, and so hopefully I will like this one as well. Next up on September 26th, we have Murder at the Merton Library by Andrea Penrose. This is another historical mystery. I think I was in a mystery mood when I was making this list because quite a few of these have a mysterious element to them. I don't have too much about it, except that there are two mysteries going on: a perplexing murder in a renowned Oxford University library, and then a suspicious fire at a famous inventor's London laboratory set these two people, Rexford and Lady Charlotte, on two separate investigations. I'm not sure if this is part of a series. I don't know. It sets these two detectives out on two separate investigations in this masterfully plotted, atmospheric Regency set mystery. And that's all I wrote down. But it sounds intriguing to me. I love a good mystery. I like the Regency era to read about. I think that it will be a lot of fun. I liked the cover. Honestly, that's what drew me in first. So yeah, I just kept that on the list because it sounds fun. And finally, the last one is a middle grade, and it's the third in a series that I have loved. It's The Wild Robot Protects by Peter Brown. I'm very excited to return to Roz and her story. She's a robot that, The Wild Robot is the first book in the series, and then The Wild Robot escapes, and now we have The Wild Robot Protects. And in this one, Roz is on her island with all of her creatures that have become her friends, and the water, something happens in the water and it becomes kind of poisonous and toxic, and everybody who inhabits the island has to get closer and closer, and resources are running thin. Therefore, lots of personality conflicts happen as they all are kind of fighting for the same resources. Roz sets out to try to discover what happened, to find more resources to protect her friends and her family on the island, and also hopefully protect the ocean and save the ocean as well. Go Roz. I've really liked the first two books in the series, and I'm looking forward to the third one. So that's definitely on my list. My library already had it listed. It doesn't come out till the end of September. It's already on order for my library. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So I'm already on the holds list. All right, that is it. That is my list of books that I'm excited for that are coming out from July to September. And I would love to know if any of these sound really good to you, which covers stood out to you, and do you have any other books that I need to add to my list? I'm not going to add them to this list because I keep track, but I would love to add them to my Goodreads want to read list if you think of others that I might like or that you're excited for. Let's chat in the comments below. I always love talking with you down there. Thank you so much for watching and spending some time with me today. I really do appreciate it. I appreciate you. And I hope you're reading something fabulous right now, and I'll talk to you in another video very soon. Bye.